Good evening and thank you for joining us here on HSTV News for the weekly roundup, a review of this week's top stories. I hope I find you warm and safe. I'm Unique Zimoto and here are the top stories. Kasukuwere kicked out of presidential race. Chamisa suffers a double blow. Mnangagwa to jail Buchinguri and Kazembe if Triple C wins seats in Mashonaland Central. Chamisa battles to stop alleged rigging. ZANU-PF indicates left turns right on violence. EU deploys even in rural Zimbabwe. Mwonzora hits back at party spokesperson. ZANU-PF worry over Chamisa. EFF offers buses for Zimbabweans to go home and vote. Join us after this short break for the news in greater detail. Welcome back to the weekly roundup. I'm Unique Zimoto and here is the news in greater detail. It was a Black Friday for independent presidential candidate Xavier Kasukuwere after the Supreme Court kicked him out of the race, reducing the number of candidates from 12 to 11. Kasukuwere, who posed the biggest threat to President Emmerson Mnangagwa's re-election, will now watch the polls from his South Africa base, where he has been in self-exile. Lovedale Mangwana had argued that Zimbabwe Electoral Commission had erred by accepting Kasukuwere as a candidate when he had been out of the country for more than 18 months. Our reporter Chengeto Chidi filed this report.
A black week for elections in Zimbabwe as candidates fell one by one from the ballot paper, giving ZANU-PF one of its best advantages in any poll since 1999. Xavier Kasukuwere, who had brought panic in the ZANU-PF campaign matrix, was the latest victim this morning after he was kicked out of the presidential race by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled his appeal of the High Court judgment lacked merit. Kasukuwere's spokesperson Jacqueline Sande said the campaign was unhappy with the judgment, saying it went against the grain of the supreme law of the country.
What transpired in court is that the court delivered its judgment and it found that the appeal lacks merit. However, we are very much disappointed that in such a matter of public importance, the court chose to give a judgment without backing it up with any reasons, because this is a matter which goes to the constitution of the country, which goes to the root of democracy. So we expect the court to give us the reasons along with the judgment so that it enables the country to understand the basis of their finding. So these reasons, we'll be waiting for them. But in the meantime, the legal team had, of course, prepared a contingent plan. They were aware that such a result may come out, and the next steps definitely will be announcing them to you in due course. We will be inviting you for a press conference where we will inform the nation of the next step. But we are saying that on behalf of President Xavier Kasukuwere, this is not the end of the road. We are going to be pursuing the fight for him to remain on that ballot and for the citizens of this country to be given the opportunity to vote for him.
The other candidate to bite the dust was lead leader Linda Masarira, who will now watch the polls from the sidelines. Her lawyer Andrew Makoni shared that reasons of the dismissal are not yet clear.
Appeal which we had noted against the decision of the nomination court has been dismissed. But however, the court just read the operative part of the judgment, so we are not clear as to the reasons why the appeal was dismissed. We will only be able to know the reasons when we read the judgment.
Masarira said she was very disappointed by the judgment.
I'm down. I'm sad. That is the reality. I came with high expectations, and I feel like my political rights violated, because I also have a right to participate in political electoral activities in this country as a Zimbabwean without being limited by the currency volatility or the inconsistent monetary policies in this country. It's a sad day for justice in the country.
Women rights activist Nyaradzo Mashayamombe, who was at the court, stood by Masarira.
It is very disheartening, it's very discouraging. It is a pushback of the Constitution, Section 56 as well, especially that provides for equal participation of women and men. Just looking at the fees that the government set, being 20,000 for a presidential running for election was very unreasonable for any citizen to run for office. But then also the fact that SEC refused her proof of payment for 20,000, equivalent of 20,000, that's legal tender in this country, which probably the SEC had not fully explained or had not fully told the nominees that they needed to strictly pay in US dollars. It's very discouraging, and it's very discriminatory against women, but also it is an issue of a reflection of a policy issues in Zimbabwe. For example, the financial policy that then discriminates against women, refusing our own currency and preferring the United States dollars, and then make it a technicality for women to not participate is very, very sad.
Many in the civic spaces, opposition, politics and lawyers have condemned the recent court judgments, with some saying the courts have now become the electorate. This election has seen more court challenges before the polls than any other in the history of elections. The MDCT is also crying foul after its candidate also failed to make the spot. Chengeto Chidi for HSTV News, reporting from the Supreme Court, Harare.
The Citizens Coalition for Change is in 6s and 7s after suffering a massive electoral blow at the hands of both ZANU-PF and its estranged candidates, who include lawyer Freddie Masarirevu. Triple C leaders attempted to weed out double candidates, but they hit a brick wall after Harare High Court Judge Justice Neville Wamambo dismissed the application. Our reporter Wongai Kawa gives us the High Court roundup.
It is increasingly looking possible for the opposition to lose some parliamentary seats in its strongholds to ZANU-PF for the first time since formation, after the High Court dealt a deadly blow to Nelson Chamisa's attempt to weed out double candidates. Harare High Court Judge Justice Neville Wamambo ruled that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission had no duty to ensure that the signatures on the 16 candidates accused of forging nomination papers were authentic. The judge then dismissed the application that was before him, giving power to the alleged fraudulent candidates to continue with their campaigns under the Triple C banner. James Timber of the Triple C said the party was unhappy with the judgment, placing his hope on the voters to make the final verdict.
Well, I'm not surprised with the outcome, but what I'm clear about is that political matters are resolved politically in the ballot box. What we will not accept as a movement is that anyone, whether it's the electoral body or a court of law, can impose candidates on us. The Triple C is the National Citizens Assembly, is sovereign in as far as the selection of its candidates is concerned. The candidates that we pointed out to the court are not Triple C candidates, and therefore are not representing Triple C in any form or manner. But we do not live in a normal country, and neither do we have normal institutions. Therefore, we should not expect normal conduct and behavior by those institutions. We assure the people of Zimbabwe that we will present to you who our candidates are, and those are the candidates that we ask you to vote for. Those candidates which were deployed by FAS, those candidates which were deployed by ZANU-PF to come and contest against ourselves, we have got no chance at all on the day of the 23rd of August.
Tinashe Sinto, a lawyer who was representing the alleged fake candidates, was happy with the judgment, which now paves way to a possible ZANU-PF win in areas previously viewed as opposition strongholds.
The appeal was dismissed, and I feel that it's a fair judgment, considering what the law says. The law is what it is, and there is nothing that can be done to reverse what the law says. It's just that the issue came, but it came under the wrong law. So it was bound to fail. There was nothing before the court. And that's what that is.
The judgment came as the Chamisa-led outfit was marching from another major blow from Bulawayo, where the party was kicked where it matters most. Chamisa lost 12 of his parliamentary candidates in Bulawayo after the High Court ruled they filed their nomination papers outside time. The ruling gives ZANU-PF 3 parliamentary seats unopposed, with the Finance Minister Mthuli being the biggest beneficiary. Bongaikawa, HSTV News, High Court.
Opposition leader Nelson Chamisa, who's looking to wrestle power from President Emmerson Mnangagwa, has assured his supporters that they would not cry rigging in this election. Addressing a rally in Beitbridge, Chamisa, who disputed the 2018 election results, said he found a solution to elections theft, which he accused ZANU-PF of pooling every poll. Fighting in a poll where over 100 of his rallies have been barred, delimitation controversies, voter roll are contested, Chamisa appears to have confidence he can turn the election around.
Wakapuwa mukana akadzimwe 2 years zamudhara wake apana chakabuda. Ike zvino watora dzimwe 5 years akabvutirawo mukomana 2018 ani makaona wakabvuta akabatsirwa nekoti isu tatamurova asi rwendo rwuno yafamba kamwe haitewi tinokonana chete. Tinozviziva kuti izvezvi ari kutemba kuti uchati pano neapa, bati rwendo rwuno takasosera, takasosa nokuti takaziva pano nobvuta napo. Toda kuona kuti gore rino pano anaunzwa ma-elections, gepi rinofanira kunge rakakura. Beitbridge ndipewo kuti mukomana akarova 80%, Mnangagwa 5%.
ZANU-PF leader President Emmerson Mnangagwa, battling for a landslide electoral victory, has threatened to jail party chairperson Muchinguri and Mashonaland Central chairperson Kazembe if ZANU-PF does not win 100% of the parliamentary seats in the province. Mnangagwa was addressing a well-attended Presidential Star rally in Centenary when he said he would jail his lieutenants if they don't deliver 100% victory of his party.
Saka dinoti kuna chairman Kazembe na minister wangu Senator Monica Mavungu. Tabane makore makumimana 40 years. Mashonaland Central ichimbo ita 100% kuza bantu ku parliament. Kana bakukazoteza wanesa kuje bamika bali Monica na Kazembe bali banenge bakuta mutsika Mashonaland Central.
Harare South constituency has become a hotbed of political violence, giving rise to allegations that the ZANU-PF leadership is paying lip service to their calls on peaceful campaigns. While addressing a rally in the constituency, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga told supporters that those who engage themselves in violence will be jailed. Our reporter gives us the story.
ZANU-PF is looking to retain Harare South, which the party won at the expense of the opposition in 2018 after the MDC alliance fielded 2 candidates. There has, however, been allegations that violence is rocking the constituency as tensions intensify. A ZANU-PF supporter confirmed the violence but attributed it to rogue elements in the organization.
Vachiri kumashure kwenguva zvirikutsura tinowana vada kutora advantage yekuti kuda kushandisa mukana wekuti tichidzira vanhu kuda kwemusangano yeti wemusangano wakatodzidzisa kuti asikazinga adzidziswe tiende mberi nedevelopment vachiripo maindividuals vakarasika but kusasiwe musangano iwoyo vachikoma vanhu vasikaziva.
The ZANU-PF constituency candidate Raimo Kanopola, however, quickly distanced his party from the violence, which has seen some citizens for Coalition for Change members saying they have been injured in clashes. The candidate accused the opposition of not having any campaign grounds and were now resorting to mudslinging.
Idzo dzangova nhau dzekusvibisa magariro atakaita nerunyararo kuno kuHarare South. Vanhu vazhinji vari kuno vanhu vane dzimba dzavo so kuti tingati kuno kungaite mhirizhonga kana kurwisana tinorwisiranei.
ZANU-PF leaders, including President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his deputy, have been talking tough against violence but acting less. Just this week, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, while addressing ZANU-PF supporters in Stonebridge, said there was a special place in prison for those caught on the side of political violence.
We want peace. During this campaign, this 30 days tapera tangoti iro rechi 30 ndiro rakutopera. Asi kubvira kuchenda mangwana 29 kusvikira musi kuvhota, we want peace. We want love amongst you, ourselves as Zimbabweans. We want unity. We want tolerance. Those bent on violence, let me tell you, you get your VIP at Chikurupi. We are not going to be merciful.
Zimbabwean elections have been known for violence, which in the past has left many dead, displaced or maimed. In 2022, a CCC supporter, Waneni Ncube, was murdered at a rally. No action has been taken so far. Reporting for HSTV News, Kelly Mabaire.
The European Union has deployed election observers into rural Zimbabwe some 30 days before voting. The EU Deputy Chief Observer Bert Martin told reporters that their report will be based on first-hand information and not hearsay.
We have a deployment plan which is based on the experience of the individual observers, their gender, their background, their language skills, and many other criteria. We pair them up in teams of 2 so that all of their observations, which should be first-hand with their own eyes and with their own ears, are able to be checked between them. So it is never the impression of one person about what is going on. They have to come to a consensus. And then all of that information from those 46 individuals from all around the country is reported to us and to our analysts here in Harare. We're 11 core team analysts covering all aspects of the process, from the legal framework to the election administration, to the campaign and campaign finance, as well as media and social media. And we take all of that information, analyze it, and are then able to reach conclusions on the entirety of the process after Election Day.
Douglas Mbonzora, the leader of fringe opposition MDC-T, hit back at his party spokesperson, Witness Dube, who is now a full ZANU-PF member. The former party spokesperson had dismissed Mbonzora as an incompetent leader who had destroyed all party structures, mismanaged party funds, and failed to field candidates ahead of the polls.
Some top MDC leaders and parliamentarians who were weak-willed have been bored by trinkets and joined the ZANU-PF. These blinded them such that they see nothing wrong with hobnobbing with a party that has destroyed the livelihoods of millions of Zimbabweans. They see nothing wrong with joining a party that yesterday murdered their comrades like Tondera Indira, Beta Chokururama, Godfrey Kauzani, Shepard Jani, Mai Chiroto in gold blood. They are willing participants in ZANU-PF's crusade to decimate the MDC. Yet this betrayal and treachery will never deter us.
In my humble view, ever since President Tsvangirai's demise, the opposition formations in all their variants actually totally disintegrated and really are shells of what they used to be. In my humble opinion, they have no substance to offer. They cannot stand and pretend before people with any common sense that they can actually do anything in a much better way than ZANU-PF.
Despite publicly writing off the CCC leader Nelson Chamisa ahead of the August 23 general elections, ZANU-PF appears to be having sleepless nights over his presidential challenge. The party spokesperson Christopher Mchangwa held a press conference to discuss about Chamisa.
our vice presidents are campaigning in support of the president, in unison with the president, because we are a united party. This is also what's happening at MP level, it's happening at councillor level. We move together as one solid mass, organically pushing the agenda of getting the maximum votes come 23 August. This is in dire contrast to the other party. The day when they go to Congress, every one of their top leadership expects to come out as a president of that Congress. And each one who loses becomes a splinter party. Now we can't even see BIT campaigning together with Chamisa because he is miffed, he is angry. We can't see Welshmen campaigning together with Chamisa. Now, you see, these are leaders of a party who have their own charisma and following in certain areas where they are. Now, if you leave them out, you go to those areas and you don't expect it, then the crowd doesn't turn up. Don't blame anybody, don't blame ZANU-PF. A charity begins at home. Start by showing love and unity amongst yourselves in that party. ZANU-PF shows love and unity among the membership. It does not exist in the other party. All that exists is a rat race for power. If you don't win, you start shouting at your opponent.
South Africa's EFF has offered free transport to Zimbabweans wishing to go back to vote in the August 23 general elections. The Julius Malema-led party says it's time for Zimbabweans to change the destiny of their country by casting their vote in the polls and returning to South Africa after finishing the business.
For now, we do recognize that the democracy of Zimbabwe, as well as its own sovereignty, they must undergo the process of renewing leadership of the country and elect new cabinet, new president, and have a new term of parliament which is going to govern the entire Zimbabwe and give it a new mandate in terms of economy and in terms of its own well-being of the people. So it's very important for Zimbabweans, those that are the descent of Zimbabwe and of Zimbabwean origin, to make sure that they cast a vote, they have a voice, and democratically so, be allowed to choose a government of their choice, be allowed to choose a government that they feel is suitable for Zimbabwe to go forward. So if it means that Zimbabweans must go home from every corner of the country, and that's what the EFF is also advocating for, that all Zimbabweans must go home, cast that vote. You are welcome to go back wherever you were, for whatever reasons that have made you to leave Zimbabwe and go to whichever country you've gone to. But for now, we encourage and motivate all Zimbabweans that go back home, make sure you cast a vote, make sure you have a voice, and make sure that you choose a government that's going to take your country and your economy and your well-being forward. And as the EFF, we also added that we are free to assist anyone who needs assistance in terms of transportation to go to Zimbabwe and making sure that they can then come back to South Africa if they feel a need to come.
The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission has backed the Patriotic Act, a controversial law seen as a draconian legislation meant to stifle democracy. The chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, Elasto Hilarious Mogwadi, addressing the press this week, said the law was introduced a little too late, as it should have been implemented just after independence to protect the territorial independence of the country.
Well, yes, my comment is what that law is intended to do is to ensure that people are aware of their rights, right to sovereignty, right to a country. And you would normally disturb those rights if you begin to sit with third parties, with foreigners, and talk ill about your country. I'm not too sure of the penalties, but I think, if you look at the laws of any country, the United States, for example, which claims to be the mother of human rights, is such a bill. They have a patriotic act, and if you talk ill about the country, the United States, you'll be severely punished. Or even if you disgrace the flag, you face severe punishment. And so I think people have to become aware that you cannot claim rights in any other country other than your own. And therefore you have to be patriotic to your country so that it continues to exist to protect you, and you to make sure that you make a claim. This is why we have foreign missions. If any one of our citizens here faces a problem in a foreign country, they will run to their mission or to their embassy for assistance. And I think personally that law was even late in coming. We should have had it at independence in 1980.
The international community, a civic society, and general Zimbabweans have condemned the law as undemocratic and violating the constitution of Zimbabwe. It has now been challenged at the Supreme Court. We now turn to the arts. Artists have been urged to play a leading uniting role ahead of the elections as the Culture Week comes to an end. Art has been known to unite people across political, ethnic, and even racial lines. Our arts and entertainment reporter Winston Antonio filed this report.
Artists have been challenged to play a leading role in the upcoming elections as ambassadors of peace and Ubuntu. Speaking as the curtains came down on Culture Month, European Union Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Jos van Kirchner, said this year's theme, Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, should reflect in the elections to be held on August 23.
This year, when we get closer to elections, and now we are only a couple of months away, I think this theme has an extra meaning. It has the meaning of not forgetting that we are all together, the spirit of Ubuntu. And I think you as artists, and not only those who do sculptures, but everybody who is in art and in culture, should think about that during these months. How can you contribute to promote the spirit of Ubuntu so that these elections will be peaceful and inclusive and contribute to the prosperity of Zimbabwe?
Culture Month commemorations are an extension of World Day Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, which is celebrated on May 21, a date that was set aside by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in the Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity in 2001. Winston Antonio reporting for HSTV here at the National Art Gallery of Zimbabwe in Harare.
Now we turn to the social media video of the week.
The only thing I learned from Mayweather's visit to Zimbabwe is to not to Scott. Pronounce Scott. Scott. You know who's Scott? Scott. Scott. Sakpanya. Scott. Sakpanya. Scott. Scott. Where's Scott? I know Scott. Scott. Not Scott. Scott. You know Scott. You know Scott. You know Scott. Scott.
Thank you all for joining us on the weekly roundup powered by Newsday, Zimbabwe Independent, The Standard, and HSTV News. Please leave a comment so that we get feedback on our work so that we improve the product to meet your taste. Also, don't forget to subscribe and set notifications so that you don't miss out on quality programming from HSTV. From the heart and soul of the nation, I'm Unique Zimbabwe, and have a lovely night.